The last item, we have kept one, what we call the antithesis. Sreekumar, a scientist who is now living in a village on a 2-acre plot and almost entirely on that, living a very frugal life. And also he straddles two worlds. While living as a peasant, in that village, he worked with Narmada Bachao Andolan, he worked with the anti-nuclear movement and all that. He is going to talk about the machine as the antithesis. Sreekumar.
Good evening. This topic has been given to me by person mentioned as antithesis of the principles of cooperation and coexistence. And I believe that these principles of cooperation and coexistence are the cornerstones of a fair and sustainable society. So whatever I am going to say today will be from the point of view of fairness and sustainability. When we use the word handmade here, we are using it in opposition to what is done by powered machines. I am deliberately qualifying it as powered machines because human beings are tool-making animals and they have been making tools all along. They make tools from tools and they have taken it to a very high degree of sophistication. And this had happened even before powered machines had come into existence. The plow, the wheel, the spinning wheel, a hand loom, these are not powered machines. They are all run by human power. Of course, even before the Industrial Revolution, human beings had started using sources of energy other than their own muscles, like water mills and windmills to drive some machines. But still, the scale of mechanization had not been very large. It became very large only when human beings learned to convert heat into work. And then, because we already knew the control of fire and we knew how to produce heat, we could build very, very large machines. So, as a result of this, the energy we consume increased by orders of magnitude. When I mean energy, I mean the per capita energy. So all this has to come from our environment, and to obtain this, we have displaced a lot of life. Not only this, when we make a machine which can do the job of 10 people, from the point of view of the person who is investing in it, it is increased productivity. But it also means that 9 people have been removed from their work. So, and if all these people have to find some other employment, we will have to continuously create more and more new demands. And in meeting these new demands, we hope that all people will get employment. But all of them will get employment in the same way. That means the per capita resource consumption, when we use powered machines, has to go on increasing. And this has fueled economy which is continuously demanding growth. And most of the problems we face today are because of this continuous demand for growth. And we know that Earth can have only a limited capacity to regenerate whatever we have used. And because this is limited, it cannot support a demand for perpetual growth. Anyway, since I have limited time, I better use some notes that I have prepared so that I can complete this in given how many minutes, 6 minutes or 7 minutes, I don't know. So, one of the things we said other people have said that everything cannot be, the value of everything cannot be measured in money. This was said in the context of work done at home, which is not paid labor, and a lot of other things also, right? In another context, it was said that 51% of the Indian workforce is engaged in agriculture, but our GDP estimates show that they contribute only 18% to the GDP. But how well does one estimate that they contribute only 18% to the GDP? This is based on the value that the market has assigned it, or the value the government has assigned to the product of agriculture. Right? Now, Gayatri had said that the true value of agricultural produce ought to be much higher given the labor that goes into producing it. If all the people who don't produce food have to pay the true price of food, then all other sectors of the economy will become unprofitable. That means people who produce food are subsidizing all other sectors of the economy, and this is not at all seen as a subsidy. Another thing that is not seen as a subsidy is that whenever we use powered machines running on fossil fuels, we are getting energy very cheap. That is why in the market, anything that is handmade cannot compete with anything that is produced by machine. But what is the subsidy that goes into this? The fact that they are using a non-renewable fuel as the source of energy, the fact that all other non-renewable resources they use are actually valued at the price of mining, makes this very cheap in comparison to that is anything made by hand. That is not seen as a subsidy. So actually, if we have punitive taxes high enough to eliminate this subsidy, handmade products will not be uncompetitive in the market. So we should see this as a subsidy. We should see this as a subsidy. It is, we should see that all accumulation of wealth is appropriation. It is appropriation. It should be seen as appropriation. It should be seen as appropriation of commons. Right? Unless we see this, any administrative or political measure we resort to solve this problem cannot work. The other thing is that when we started using fossil fuels for powering machines and many other things, like other services also, transportation, IT and all that, when the use of fossil fuels started, the resources seemed to be unlimited, and also the environmental impacts of all these things seem to be insignificant. But now we have reached a stage where we know that the resources are not unlimited and that the environmental impacts are not significant, but still not insignificant. But still, during this era of plenty that fossil fuels have created, some of the values in our society have taken a back seat. Cooperation has died and competition has increased. And these value systems continue even when we know that the resources are limited and the Earth's capacity to absorb the environmental impacts of our actions are limited. So what we need to now do is nurture a spirit of cooperation. And unless that is done, in order to solve the problems created by inappropriate use of technology or technology driven by a wrong value system, if we resort to technology alone, it won't work. No amount of science and technology can work unless we correct the value system which has produced this technology. So in this, it is not enough for us to engage with the government itself. Many things have to be done in the form of a movement. Many things we have to engage with society at the level of ethics. I feel that at least some of the things that I've listed here are essential if we are to solve the problems that we face in the world today. One, I already said that accumulation of wealth must be seen as appropriation. Then the other thing is our care for the commons. Commons should never be exploited for personal profit. It should always be nurtured. This should be part of our social ethic. By in commons, what can we include? It's not not just air, water, soil, common grazing lands, forests, etc. But even knowledge, oceans, or all this. I would say any knowledge that we create in our work is built on knowledge that is already existing in society. So knowledge is also common and it should never be used for exploitation. And there should be no legitimacy for using knowledge for accumulation of excessive wealth. There should be no legitimacy for this in our ethics, and there should be no legitimacy for this in our laws. The other thing is, of all the commons that we have destroyed using the power of technology, the most serious damage has been done to the fertility of the soil. And now we know that we don't produce food using the fertility of the soil, but using external inputs. And we have reduced the fertility of the soil to an extent where it cannot produce anything without these inputs. So, in order to rebuild the fertility of the soil, a lot of people have to go back to the soil. So far, in a systematic way, people have been transferred away from agriculture to other sectors of the economy, because the profitability of agriculture has been artificially kept low in order to make other sectors of the economy more profitable. As I said earlier, farmers are subsidizing all other sectors of the economy by providing cheap food. So, unless this is corrected, it will never be attractive for anyone to return to the land. And in order to repair the damage done to the soil, we need more people to work on the soil, and they must have good livelihoods. We have one example before us, that is that of Cuba. What happened in Cuba when the Soviet Union collapsed? They were dependent on fertilizers, pesticides, and all oil and everything else imported from Soviet Union. When it collapsed, they had to become self-sufficient. So they gave so much encouragement to agriculture that agriculture was done on all common lands. Qualified people, scientists, doctors, engineers went back to do agriculture, and that is how they became self-sufficient. So when you measure the true value of food, agriculture cannot be unprofitable. And now what is of the greatest urgency is rebuilding the fertility of the soil, which means that we have to make agriculture attractive. Okay. The other thing is that in pursuit of GDP, sorry.
Don't feel sorry, I feel sorry. In the context of GDP, what we consider now as wealth is what can be sold and bought for money. The true wealth that we have is the very ability of the earth to support life, and all the wealth that we have created so far, measured in GDP, is at the expense of this true wealth. Right? So if we are to rebuild this true wealth, that is the capacity of the earth to support life, we have to shrink our economy. We have to shrink our economy without destroying jobs. That means that we will have to have less mechanization, not more. So there has to be true value for all physical work. And finally, I would summarize by saying that the science and technology we already have is sufficient for solving all our problems if we correct our value system, that we nurture cooperation as opposed to competition. But unless we correct this, no amount of science and technology can help us. Thank you very much, Sreekumar. We have cancelled the tea session. We are going to start with the next session, which is the delegate session, where we are going to discuss the 4 resolutions. All of your delegates. There are no special delegates. Thank you, Sreekumar.